Hello and welcome back to the ministry. And today we're talking about the fact that we have to be okay with the fact that we are not imposters. If somebody got something before we did, that wasn't what was meant to be ours. God has a plan for what it is that He wants us to do, and He has a plan for the way in which He wants us to do it. If we look at the Bible, is the scripture where David is going out on the battlefield and he sees Goliath. He sees the uncircumcised Philistine, and what does his siblings tell him? Come, put on this armor, do this, you gotta look the part, you gotta be this, you gotta be that, in order to be able to go out there and fight Goliath. And he says, you're wearing all that and you're standing on the sidelines crying about the fact that you can't fight him. So a lot of us get intimidated, and imposter syndrome sinks in on us. I was looking at the article that this came from that I wrote back in 2017, and I was recollecting upon the story that my coach told about going to the airport and the person at the attendant's desk telling her that they couldn't give her a first class flight because the person before her got first class flight. If you are a child of God and God has called you to do a great work, there are going to be people in the world that are doing what you're called to do, and they're doing it pretty well. There are people that have already achieved what the Lord is sending you out there to do. You see them, you know they're there. I don't care what industry, whether you're a coach, whether you're a dancer, singer, actor, performer, producer, music producer, you name it, whatever it is, there's somebody that's already gone out there and they've done it. 9 times out of 10, there's somebody that you've been looking at that's already gone out there and did it. And they were first. They were first class. It's kind of funny. At the BET Awards, Brandy came out and she was singing a verse on the song for, I forget who the guy's name song it is, but the song is called First Class. And she sang the verse for First Class. And the fact of the matter is, there are going to be people that went before you. There are going to be people that sang it first. There's going to be people that did it first. There's going to be people. God's telling you, I know they did it. I'm telling you, I want you to go out there and do it. Remember when Moses was told by God, I need you to go back to Pharaoh and free my people. And he said, but I can't do that because I stutter. But I can't do that because I... And God said, I told you to go out there. The fact of the matter is, God will tell us to go out and do something great. And the first thing we will think about is, well, the first person that pops into your head is the person that's doing the exact same thing. And you're comparing yourself to everything about them that is not right with you. You're out there comparing yourself to the way that they dress, their appearance, the assistants that they got, the fact that they made it as far as they did. They got so much more money than you do right now. You don't got the resources to be able to do that. But God gave you the skills, talents, and all of this. And what happened to the guy that had the talents? The king gave this person a set of talents. This person got 6. This person got 5. This person got 2. One person had 1. He left them be, and then he came back to check on them, and the person that had 5 had turned them into 10. The person that had 2 turned them into 5. The person that had 3 turned them into 6. And then there was the one that had 1, and he said, I took the one that you gave me and I buried it. Some of y'all are burying the things of which God has given you as talents because somebody got there first. Somebody was doing it before you. They've had all these years of longevity ahead of you, so of course you can't do it now because they already done did it, right? They already done put in the work. They already done did it. But do you remember the scripture in the Bible that talks about there were the people that were working in the field all day. They got down to the last hour, and there was a whole new set of people that came in, and they worked that last hour, and they got the same pay as the people that had been there the whole time. There are people in the world right now that have been doing what they do and making it look good for 5, 10, 15 years. 20, 25 years. Coming up on 30 years, they've been out there doing it. But God's moving them out of the way because He's preparing a new set of people to take those spots and positions. He's preparing to shift these people. Either He's pulling people down so He can raise y'all up, or He's just shifting them out of the position that they were in, and there's going to be a new alignment for new people to take those seats. But either way, who was there first is not going to be there for much longer. Sometimes what the Lord will allow is He'll allow you to get to that place just long enough for the other person that you're about to replace to see you before He pulls that person out of the seat. But it's something funny. I've been listening to Tiffany Montgomery, and she was saying the other day that God's going to fight the battle for you, but you got to show up. A lot of us are afraid to show up for the positions in which God has called us to possess in this season because I don't got all the resources. God, you telling me I'm supposed to do that, but do you see where I'm at? God knows exactly where you're at. Sometimes He lets you stay there. He sent you there. He put you there. He knows exactly where you are and what you doing. And you sitting up there saying, "But God, you I don't got what they got." When you get there, you'll get what you need. How often has God given you the skill set? Well, He's given you the skill set. But how often has He given you the resources for another place and you haven't gotten it yet? He's like, I'm going to give you the resources, but you got to move your feet. It doesn't matter what they got before you. A lot of people teach us, especially I'm a person that studies business. So what they teach is that whenever you're preparing to do something, you must shadow somebody. And what they tend to do in mentorial teachings, especially for specific careers, they tend to say, okay, if you don't have access to the person, go follow the person that has the attributes of the type of career in which you want to create. Technically, in order to create somewhat of a carbon copy of what it was already. But you got to realize you're not that person. There may be people that inspire you. They're kind of mentorial to you. They have the skill sets that you like, and you can see yourself being that type person, but you're not them. God's going to use you the way He's going to use you, and you have to understand what lane that you're supposed to walk in, stand in, run in, be in this season, or else you're going to get crushed by imposter syndrome and the pride surrounded by humility, making you say to yourself, I can't do that because I got wisdom that, da 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 da. You're not going to move into the position in which God's saying, I want to put you right there. But you're not allowing me to move you into the place that I really want to put you in, because you're operating in a level of fear that I can't use. This morning I was listening to one of the young men that operates in a apostolic ministry, but he's very, very, very he takes no mess. And he was ranting on YouTube about a lot of Christians try to be very cookie cutter because they're on these social media streets. And I get it. I completely understand why they do it. Because of the fact that you're not there yet. We haven't reached the degree in which we've got all of the followers and we got the people behind us yet, that we're still trying to learn these social media streets. So we're trying to still remain on our P's and Q's, even though social media day after day, I follow, I'm on Instagram right now, and I have not used my account in a few months, and I have not been able to get into using my account. And it's not because I don't have access, it's just because I don't have the unction to be there right now. I created content. I even have 8 articles waiting to be posted, and I just don't feel like I should be posting over there right now. I did a live video a few weeks ago, but that's about it. Because I'm seeing the oppressive nature of these social media platforms. To be able to speak freely about the gospel and what we see and understand about the motives, the actions, and so on and so forth that we're seeing being done in order to come against and sanction the Christian. Do we know how to speak to the people afterwards? And that's what he was talking about. He was talking about people want to be cookie cutter because they don't want to ruffle any feathers. And for me, it's not the fact that I don't want to ruffle no feathers. I'll ruffle your feathers in a minute. It's the fact that I could sit up here and scream and holler and take the position that he talks about of being that Christian that constantly yells, but there's also it's an element, and I'm not saying this about him. I'm not saying that he's pharisaical in any way, shape, or form, but there are some people that would operate in that pharisaical spirit, that it says in the Bible that Jesus made the parable of the people that go out into the streets and holler at the top of their lungs about everything that is wrong, and constantly are like that. Some people, yes, you do need to let people know what's going on, but same thing as I was just saying, somebody's out there, they're doing that, doesn't mean that that's what you're supposed to be doing. Just because somebody's out there, they did it at first, doesn't mean that's what you're supposed to be doing in this season. That may not be where you're called to be in this season, what you're called to do in this season, how you're called to move and operate in this season. There may be a place for that, it just may not be right now. God has a place for us all. There's a young woman that I listened to, who's another minister of the gospel, and she was talking about sometimes what God has us doing is He wants you to be the undercover Christian. There's a scripture in the Bible that says that you must be wise as a serpent, but gentle as a dove. You can't be out there being the person screaming at the top of your lungs of exposure when God said, in this season, I want you to be gentle as a dove. I want to be gentle as a dove. Where I'm sending you into, I need you to be gentle as a dove. I understand that your heart is for the exposure of that kind of stuff, but where I'm sending you, I need you to be gentle as a dove. Because I'm that type of person. I have a lion spirit. I have that type of thing that I yell at you in a minute. If people understood the way that I really could be, they would leave me alone. They would truly leave me alone. I take that energy and I go into prayer with that. I keep my peace externally. I'm gentle as a dove on a day-to-day basis. And I'm as wise as a serpent when I go up in the spirit realm. I will beatbox you in the spirit. But right now, I'm going to stand in peace amongst the people. You have to understand that wherever God is calling you, you have to know the parameters of how to operate in the place in which God is calling you. You will get farther because you will be under the protective covering of the Lord in that season. Don't step out of your lane because you see this person doing that. Or because you know that you have a lion spirit. I want to go out there and fight. God said, I'm not wanting you to fight. I actually want you to be the one that's quiet. I want you to be the one that's observing. I want you to be the one that take that into prayer and intercede about that. I want you to be the one observant. Because sometimes the most dangerous person is the person sitting there and they're not saying anything. Because God is using you, and he knows that he can use you, because you're not going to pop off at the mouth because you see something or somebody pressed your buttons, and just because you have word of knowledge, you ain't gonna sit up there and go off on somebody. I was listening to a young woman the other day, and she was talking about that she used to have a problem with people, and they would push her buttons, and they push her buttons, and they push her buttons, and push her 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 and push her, and finally she would go into her state of, well, I know this about you, this about you, this about you, this about you, this, and she would rip them a new hole because she just got sick and tired of it. But God had to deal with her on that side of herself. And because that's what the enemy does, the enemy will push your buttons because he knows he can. It's called a provoking spirit. He wants to provoke you into acting a certain way so that he can accuse you of being, oh, she wasn't Christian, she wasn't sweet, she wasn't kind, she wasn't this, she wasn't, oh, she's supposed to be all that, but she out here cursing. Look, she just cursed this person out. When he knows that he done provoked and provoked and provoked and provoked, and when you decided to yoke him up publicly, it's that element of, see? It happens to me all the time. It happens to me all the time. Sometimes I just have to laugh at it. I'm like, we doing this again? This is the fight we in today again? Because there are places, Tiffany Montgomery released a word on Periscope 4-5 years ago where she said that God is sending his children into territories full of snakes and vipers. And we have to walk with him in alignment with the way in which he told us to walk in order to avoid getting bitten. Yes, there may be something that the Lord is showing you about a particular person. Maybe he has your walk is going to be similar to their walk. He's giving you dreams. He's giving you visions. He's showing you exactly what you're going to do in certain industries. But most people will turn around and tell you if they see you doing anything that looks remotely like what that person did, and say, you can't do that because this person already did it. I can't give you this discount because the person ahead of you already got it. You can't get this done because that person already has done it. Did they do it the way that you were going to do it? I remember I watched Steve Harvey on stage one time, and he was doing his stand-up comedy routine, and he was talking about when he first became a comedian, and he said to himself, he went to a comedy show one night. His friend, I think, had booked them to come in to the show, and he was like, man, he was watching all the comedians up there, and he's like, man, if I was up there, I'd do this. And his friend said, good, I booked you. You're going to be the last one to go up. He said, what? He's like, yeah, go up there. And he went up there, and he did everything that he said he was going to do that was different from everybody else. And that's when he was driven into his wilderness season, and he had to learn his craft. God will allow you to see who's already there. But the trick is not to compare yourself to who's already out there. Take what you see and turn it into your own thing. I used to listen to Michael Jackson's music all the time, and I loved the way that they always used to talk about him. And they said that there would be people, the producers would bring him the music in which he was going to sing. They'd show him what it was, and they're like, okay, well, this person did it this way, and he said, I understand how that person did it. Let me go and do what I did. He would go in one take, sing the whole song, completely changed it to the way that it worked best for him and his voice, and knock it out the park. The fact of the matter is this: there are things that God's going to call you to do, that there's an essence upon you that is so different than anybody else, that yeah, you may have the voice, you may have a liking to another entertainer, but the way that you're going to do it, and the way that you're going to sing, and the way that you're going to tell your story, and the way that you're going to create the visual effects and all that type of stuff of the way that you tell your story for that thing, whether it be for the film, whether it be for a visual documentary, whether it be for your music, whether it be whatever it is that you're called to do, it's going to be different because it's for you. And the way that you did it is going to slay that Goliath that is still prevalent there in that industry, whatever that industry, fashion, music, food, whatever it is, because you have an eye to see things in a specific way in which the Lord has given it to you, and it's going to speak to you specifically different way than anybody else. It's going to speak to you different than it did them. It's going to speak different than the way that they may have done it. Every certain amount of years, somebody new comes out anyway, and that new person is going to usually knock the old person out of the ballpark anyway. Now, if they veterans, they legends, they what have you, it may not knock them out of the spot unless the Lord wants them knocked out of the spot, but it's going to shift visibility. God wants you to just go do what he said do. I'm calling you to this. Just go do what I said do. I'm calling you to this industry. Just go do what I said do. I already gave you the skills. I already gave you the skill set. I already gave you the plans, this. If you're a musician, he gave you the songs. If you're an artist, he gave you the art. If you're a designer, he gave you the designs. If you're whatever it is that you are, he already gave it to you. He just needs you to go. And because you're willing to go, the other people will move out of the way for you. Even the ones that you feel like you came behind them, that you got imposter syndrome because you were dealing with a spirit of comparison, because you feel like, I can't do that because they did it so much better. I was saying, I just want you to do it the way you do it and see what I do with what you've done. I need for you to touch the way that I see that you need to touch it, and when you do that, then I will be able to work. I'll be able to work through you. See, I'm gonna tell you about something that happened to me the other day. I'm gonna tell you about two things as we close out here. Somebody came across this channel and had posted some type of derogatory comment in the comments. It trolls, I know that. But the funny thing about it was the Lord had already given me wisdom, because that morning I had gotten in my unction to come on and do a disclaiming PSA statement. I hadn't even seen the comment at this point. Then I saw it, and I started to wonder, and I found myself even now dealing with a little bit of imposter syndrome as to even having started this channel, because at the end of the day, I only want to do what the Lord wants me to do. But what the enemy would like for you to do is to feel so overwhelmed and intimidated by these people that you will stop posting, promoting, doing whatever it is that the Lord has shown you that he wants you to do with the channel, because you're at the brink of a breakthrough and he's preparing to expose you. But if you stop doing what God's called you to do, you lose. And I came to the realization that then I was starting to get recognition. I love the fact that we're up to 28, 29 subscribers now to this channel. But if I stop, whatever it is that the Lord needs for you to get, whatever it is that the Lord is desiring for you to receive, because I'm not like her, or I'm not like them, or some people feel that this looks like it's this because I don't speak in a certain way as to the relation to the way others speak. Or I slip into a state of fear because of the fact that there are false prophets out there, and I don't want to be considered one of them when I know that I'm not. If I allow fear to set in, I know what the Lord has told me. And the way that the Lord validated me was I was dealing with that. And a few nights later, I came out of a consecration, and I came out of part of a consecration, was preparing to go into another one. I was allotted the ability to see something that I could do to assist somebody with my prayer intercession. And I did intercede on this particular person's behalf. But I went into their conversation thinking, I'm just here, I'm going to chill, I'm going to listen to what needs to be said, because I always love the opportunity whenever I get a chance to pray for a situation. And I went in and I listened to the issue that needed to be had, and I said, I put this person on my prayer request list. But while I was sitting there, I stayed on the whole entire live. She was on for about 5.5 hours, and we sat there, and everything I said out my mouth to this woman, she said, you are in the spirit, you are right on point, you are ministering to me the way I needed to be ministered to. And it gave me a level of, not validation, we're going to go into that in my next half of today's messages, but a level of understanding that what I was doing was right. That what God had called me to do was correct. That I do hear from God, and that the Lord can use me because I'm willing to be used in that moment. So you have to be understanding, no matter who's first, God's going to use you the way he's going to use you. I don't care if they sang, danced, ministered, did whatever it is, better than you could ever think of, and they've been out there for years. God has a ministry that he wants to move through you in whatever area. There are prophetic artists out there, and some of us are prophetic artists. We speak through poetry, we speak through our art, our design, our singing, our whatever it is that we're called to do. We speak through that. And some of us greatly use our voice as ministry. And some of us are called to mix all of it together and be ministers of the gospel in the arts arena. I literally listened to somebody give a word last summer at a prophetic conference, and they were giving the word to somebody, and they said that as they were giving the word, they were saying God knew he could use this particular person specifically for the fact that they were not religious, and he could stretch them into certain areas and arenas in the entertainment industry because of the way in which he was desiring to use this person, that most people would hear that word and say, that's blasphemy, that's not of God, why would God have this particular person go into this industry, and blah, 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 blah. Why? Because he wants them there. A couple of the ministers I listen to are called to the entertainment industry. They're opera singers. They're R&B singers. Some of them are called to relations with other. Their kingdom spouses are meant to be in those industries. So the fact of the matter is this: God is using people in these industries, and people will call it blasphemy. Why? You can't go in there because this person already did this. You don't want to go in there and become like they did you? You don't want to go in there and get absorbed by the world. God will send his people into the world. We're supposed to go into the world and speak the gospel. What we're not supposed to do is go into the world and become friends with that. Some people get lost and become friends with the industries. You got to know where God's called you to be and how he's called you to operate, where he's called you to operate, and operate accordingly. Never forgetting your position. And I get it. I always pray to the Lord. If, Lord, you're calling me to that industry, you're calling me to those industries, I need for you to keep your hand upon me at the whole time. Because what happens is you get in there and it's almost like you become lulled to spiritual sleep. And when you get lulled into a spiritual sleep, that's when sin, because the devil is always working. He's going to try to, because he's always looking for an in. He's going to try to find an entryway in. Maybe it's not that bad. Just do a little bit of this. Do it this way. If you do it this way, this episode, you're amongst vipers. They're going to try you. Vipers are what? Snakes. What did the snake do to Eve? He got her to bite the apple from the tree of knowledge, in which she was never supposed to touch. You get into those places and spaces, and for my people that are looking for marriage, that's probably why the Lord, depending on what industry you're called to, is telling you you can't go into your industry until you have come into alignment with your marriage, because that person's got to cover you in the industry you're called to walk in. Because you walk in there, Eve, you're going to go and do exactly what Eve did. You're going to get lured in by a viper, by some sneaky opportunity offered to you that was not from God, and then bite the apple. So understand that God sent you. Let the Lord bless you. God is sending you. You are not them. They came before, but you are you, and your identity is individual to you. Be a blessing. This is Taj McCameron for Love, Faith, Peace, and Blessings Ministries. Until next time, bye-bye.